When Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa were announced to throw down in the land formerly dubbed as Fight Island, I was unable to think of a more I have no idea type of booking. Well, that of course was before drunk Adesanya slurred his way right into an ass spelunking and turning the UFC's plans for the division upside down. Now, we have an even more extreme version of an I have no idea contest, with one half of it being the current UFC Middleweight champion Sean Strickland. It's difficult to tell if the UFC is happy with having him as their champion. Obviously, they are going to keep professional about things, but I do wonder if Strickland is, to them, of the same ilk as Tyron Woodley and Aljamain Sterling, just not best for business. Before any newbie Strickland fans try to ragdoll me, let it be known that I am not at all against Strickland being a champion. The dude has fought against much more than opponents to get where he is today. A couple of fights before going against Israel Adesanya, I posted on X that I enjoy Strickland's fights and a fight with Adesanya would be entertaining. I remember someone commenting that Strickland was the most boring fighter in the UFC. I can't find that post, probably because I erased it at some point just for cleanup, but I did find when I hinted Strickland and Izzy was an actual fight, and Sean could take that W. I also said it in my Paulo Khamzat Squab Talk video. Before all that went down, Strickland damn near seemed like an enemy of the company and was being presented by Joe Rogan on his cast. Joe would not let drunk Adesanya be touched. He was not going to tolerate any skinny Izzy blasphemy, and the Google servers for some reason denied Jamie trying to look up all things Stylebender. Isn't that the worst when it happens? There were plenty of opinions, videos, and posts aimed at Izzy's dome, but there is no doubt that Strickland was front and center to hype this controversy on, and it was well before he was booked to go down under.
You snotty little bastard.
A bit surprising in my eyes. You'd think Sean and Joe would hit it off pretty much 100%. Maybe they did on all things not Izzy. Remember, Adesanya charmed the pants off the MMA community the first time he went to have a sit down with Joe.
I was trying to just chill, low-key, sneak into the country, but my dad said it can't happen. They're watching you. Everyone knows who you are. From the airport, all the area boys, Israel Adesanya, oh my God, can I take a photo? Police officers showing what's up, showing love. Crooked police officers, some of them, but they're showing what's up, showing love. And like, I didn't realize like they stay up till 4 a.m. to watch me and Kamaru fight.
Wow.
They're staying up. And I've always said I wanted to be the guy like what Pacquiao was to the Philippines.
Yeah.
You know, the way when he fights, the whole country shuts down, crime drops, everything. Yeah. I wanted to, like, I feel like after this now, it's going to keep blowing up. And I'm going to go back next year. I hope they see the possibilities, because I'm telling you, man, the countries, I mean, it was Brazil at first in the early stages of MMA, then Japan, then America, then, you know, like it always goes back and forth. And then, you know, the Oceania people right now, we're doing some work. But I'm telling you, once, not just Nigerians, once the Africans, once they start stepping in, it's going to be like when 50 Cent dropped in the club and killed the whole game for.
I don't think Izzy saw Strickland as a threat whatsoever until them being booked was looking more like a reality. The entire CKB team seemed to be drinking their own Kool-Aid a bit too much, basically all of 2023. Israel Adesanya taking out Alex Pereira to regain his title was a moment in combat sports that should never be forgotten. Most people don't actually realize how fucking elite that performance was. For the amount of discipline and focus required to do what he did is something we rarely see. That type of performance can render most minds to conclude Izzy being an untouchable fighter, an athlete, nay, a fighter that is simply head and shoulders above the rest. So what does that make Strickland? Lucky? Absolutely not. He shut down drunk Adesanya's entire bended style. Strickland didn't even expect a victory in that way. He said it himself, and if you watch the ceremonial weigh-ins, it appeared as if Strickland wasn't even taking it seriously. Going into the fight, Strickland berated Adesanya about alleged sus behaviors with fairly aggressive cadence, but backed off immediately after the fight as Izzy asked him to chill. Sean did a proper thing and chilled out for a few minutes, but his antagonizing ways are simply a part of his brand. He currently has pretend beef with Valentina Shevchenko so they can go on the Queen of the Incel show and shoot guns to solve their dick measuring contest. This is for some reason interesting to people, and though I don't care about who shoots better or what fighter gets the better zing while doing so, I have literally less than zero interest in Sean's offer to help Ian Machado Gary. Ian Gary has a wife, girlfriend, partner, or whatever that MMA media hype, and MMA community, as well as the MMA fighters, went completely off the hinges for. I mean, I get pointing out something and having a laugh, maybe drop a video. But dude, people basically became real housewives of MMA. I could not believe the amount of videos, X-posts, and comments all over the internet about this shit. No, really. People were bringing up Adam 22 and Will Smith as real discussion comparisons to Ian Gary. The MMA community became a gaggle of high school bitches, and Sean Strickland was the loudest in the bubble.
Hey guys, welcome to beautiful Las Vegas. I am joined by guys that have fought John Jones. This is John Jones' return.
Anyway, my point is Strickland seems to be suddenly not annoying or cliche or boring. He seems to have become some fabled hero in MMA basically overnight. Nobody was riding with him or even outwardly agreeing with his statements less than a year ago. He wasn't even looked at when perusing the division for good fights. Rogan couldn't wait for that episode to end. Now he is getting applauded en masse. He's aware of it and has tapped into the psyche of the MMA community with a good deal of success. You can't help but imagine that Strickland makes the UFC and the TKO group brass sweat bullets every time the mic is hot. At the same time, I'm not sure if Sean is drawing eyes like that. It could be effort from the UFC themselves. Sean leans into the ethos, if you will, a lot harder than Colby Covington. If you're on X, Sean Strickland comes across as if he has transcended, but I feel like the mainstream audience catches wind of his antics here and there and simply think to themselves, typical MMA.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I'm here.
I think it might be Chris Weidman that was the last middleweight champion that preferred to curry casual favor by simply being a good old boy. Though his reign was short-lived, there is no doubt in my eyes that Weidman is the ideal middleweight champion for the UFC when it comes to public character and look, and communication skills, I might say. The middleweight type like Weidman and of course all of our hero Brian Stann are the best for business type of guys that are ideal to lead the division and carry press conferences in decent light, which adds a layer of intrigue to this fight all on its own. Why? Because Dricus Du Plessis seems to fit that best for business model that the UFC is currently lacking. Dricus had a plan. Dricus has done a lot of envisioning. You live long enough, you become able to pick up on these things from people. I say this with confidence because if you're subscribed to this channel, then you already know I have covered Dricus controversy in the past. The most viewed video I have created on this channel was all about Dricus and Izzy. Before Dricus even stepped into the octagon to face Robert Whittaker, I knew there was going to be some nastiness ahead for him. I already knew how petty Adesanya could get. I already knew he was going to do something that turned it to 11. I also knew the MMA world was going to go full-on cringe once Izzy stepped into the cage, even before he opened his mouth. For example, one girl that I was watching it with said, "Where is he from?" I knew who she meant, so I said, "South Africa." She says to me, "No, the white guy." In the video titled, "Can White People Be African?" I was trying to point out this very issue and the absurdity of it all. This was months before the fight happened and that girl asked me that question. Some people got it, others didn't. Some people wanted me to make a Discord so we could talk about the history of the continent. Pass. In the video titled Israel Adesanya is a loser, I was trying to point out the hypocrisy that Izzy delivered and how it ruined Dricus' moment and how it wasn't right that Izzy got to corner Dricus like that after securing the most impressive and most important W in his entire fucking career. Yeah, the platform absolutely denied my strong, colorful vocabulary speaking out against the bully tactics that Mr. Insecurity was executing. I mean, they flatlined the whole video completely. Oh, it's here on the channel, but you gotta go to it for viewing. Dricus' career was in the air because of Adesanya's antics. It really was. What could have gone down had potential to be one of the worst and ugliest lead-ups to a fight in the history of combat sports. And with haste, this was supposed to be like 6 weeks after the Whitaker fight. In what world, dude? In what world? Dricus got a hand injury and has been sidelined until now. Personally, I believe much more was at play in sidelining him along with the injury, and most were taking for granted an Izzy victory over the very late replacement. Dricus Du Plessis has been as professional as he possibly can throughout all of this. Dana seems to be taking umbrage with Du Plessis backing out of his title fight all the way down in Australia, partly due to injury on 6 weeks' notice right after a scrap with Robert Whitaker. On the other side of the coin, Dricus is good for business. Dricus wants to dress nice and speak well. He wants to carry his flag and lead for others. This is what the UFC wants in a champion, right? Or does Dricus' professionalism come across as fake? For the UFC, who is preferred to get the W? Does it matter? How about the MMA community? If Strickland is a hero right now, Dricus is the villain? Does he become the babyface against Izzy? Does it matter at all? And Izzy is the villain regardless of whom he fights. How about the actual fight itself?
African.
It feels like the general consensus is that Izzy had an off night when he faced Strickland. Even Dana asked Adesanya if he was okay when it was over. I don't agree with him just having an off night. Now, I'm not gonna go into all the doggy-dog bullshit that went into the lead-up of this fight, but there was much more to it than just perhaps an inappropriate or off-kilter touch. By actual MMA media and media hype, the things everyone's favorite guru was digging up and putting out there were suppressed. It's clear Strickland is a fan of this content creator. Anytime he gets bored and decides he's going to ruin someone's fight week and possibly career, Strickland jumps on the wagon and sprays the block as well. Some of those things weren't damning in the sense of a career ending, but if it were me, it'd be damning internally. Israel Adesanya has a level of focus that I have almost never come across in realizing in other people. But what was being said and shared had to have gotten to even him. Is that why he lost though? I don't think so. Israel needs dance partners to be flashy and look good doing it. People were calling Strickland a boring fighter, some called Izzy a boring fighter, but it took both of them to make the world explode. Adesanya was faced with a similar stance in Yoel Romero. It stifled him, and all the kickboxing tricks weren't as impressive to the eye in that one either. Sean reminds me a little bit of Nick Diaz, not in fighting style necessarily, but his style just disrupts and arrests. How many fights did Nick Diaz have that you went in thinking no way he would win that one, and somehow he did, but never really changed his approach? Sean defended against leg kicks more than what the UFC stats actually say. I thought I was tripping, but Strike Savvy, to my surprise, factually backs up what I saw as well. Sean will X-block, lift a leg, hop back, prep for a takedown while charging his right up all at the same time just to avoid a jab. This is the problem his opponents constantly run into, and I think Dricus is going to run into the exact same thing. But Dricus frequently attempts entry on opponents squared up and straight. He doesn't always do it, but enough to be a concern against someone like Sean, who has one of the best 1-2s in the UFC. One would think that this is the key for Sean to get the W, but Dricus also has solid upper blocking. Kinda reminds me of OG OG Alexa Grasso when she would always bring her hands right back to her chin. But Dricus covers his entire fucking head. The way Strickland blocks everything should mitigate some of Dricus's chain striking. Du Plessis moves with his striking. What I mean by that is he has a style that I would say is the striking version of Habib Islam chain grappling. It's very difficult to predict with Dricus when he is going to pause in the offensive striking and reset. This is why his style looks and feels so awkward. I can't think of another fighter on the roster that does this. It's not the same as what you see in, say, Mackenzie Dern flailing about hoping to land something. Dricus is intending the movements. Because of this, Dricus, as athletic and explosive as he is, can be janky at times. Sean Strickland should be able to time him in those moments of jankiness. I'm not sure who is stronger. Most would assume Dricus, but Sean has that farm strength thing going for him. His forearms are what tell me that. I feel like the most mysterious part of the fight is what would happen on the ground or in the clinch. Strickland would benefit greatly by focusing on body shots. Dricus at times blocks in a similar way to Strickland, but leaves his body open almost always. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sean get a 3 to 5 punch combo off on Dricus anywhere in the 3rd or 4th round. Dricus's leg kicks I don't think are going to be much of a factor for Strickland, but his body kicks may be an issue. I say that because Dricus throws those kicks at seemingly random times, but leads into a stance switch or some strike. He also will throw that out there just during an exit. Dude has a unique fighting style. I think Dricus will attempt takedowns, but I'm really not sure if he can get and hold Sean down. Can't lie. Them on the ground is the Bermuda Triangle in my opinion, but I'd be surprised if there was more than 2 minutes of ground action. It could happen if Dricus is able to hold him, but I don't see him submitting or ground and pounding out Strickland. For me, this fight comes down to Strickland's ability to make Dricus overcommit and angle cutting. I think Strickland is going to frustrate Du Plessis. He is going to have a solid game plan to take out the champion, but I feel Sean is going to have success in nullifying a lot of his work. If I were in Dricus's corner, I'd try to get Sean to the ground. I spoke on Sean's forearms as an indicator for this farm strength term I like to use, and I think that will come into play. Sean is touchy-grabby, and I think that's a bigger factor than what some may think. Dricus could catch Sean with that left hook and flash KO him. I'm sure that South African team is studying Sean's fight with Poatan extensively. Sean is going to push, strike, and cut and corral Dricus until the fight is over. Dricus's only path to stopping that is getting him on the ground, in my opinion. I do think Dricus can take this fight with control and ground strikes, but again, I don't see him holding Sean down. That would actually be very impressive. While possible Dricus lands something to hurt Sean on the feet, of course. I can only imagine one of those quick knees to the head on a stand-up or quick off-the-fence event. I just see this fight going the way of your typical Strickland fight. My prediction can change, and I hope this fight stays together. I wonder who is going to be cheered more. Israel Adesanya made both of these guys and Poatan into baby faces by the way he acted and performed. Crazy to think of it like that. But Israel Adesanya has 3 rivals that he has raised the profile for, and I have to say he must be the key to a big UFC 300 event anyway. Strickland by 4th round, finish or decision after 25 minutes.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfucker.